So we talked about vegetables as a category, best, most nutrient dense. If you can call them best, I'm still going to call them best.
Right.
We have to paint with a broad brush. We talked about vegetables. We talked about meats. We talked about grains. And yeah, as we were sitting here talking, so we'll just talk about it here on the show of how am I picking these categories out? Because you said, well, should we talk about, because I've got fats as a category lined up. Should we talk about carbohydrates? Well, vegetables is a carbohydrate or has a fair amount, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not carb free if you're eating vegetables.
Correct.
And we're saying you darn well should be eating vegetables. You're doing keto right now and you are eating meat and vegetables.
Correct.
Nuts and seeds.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm kind of looking at I was kind of and we talked about grains, carbohydrate primarily.
Yep. Big one.
So should we talk about carbohydrates as a category? Otherwise, I don't know. I'm trying to look at the food.
Probably not for our purposes here, where I was just thinking as you were turning us on that the macros that people talk about, protein, fat, carb, those are the macros. Then you have the micros.
Okay.
The phytonutrients, vitamins, minerals. Those are the micronutrients that are important as well. So the way we've been talking about it is to get down and dirty and say, okay, what do you guys eat for your meats? What do you eat for your carbs? And then we thought, what do you eat for your fruits? And then you mentioned fat. And I'm like, nobody walks around saying, so what do you want for your fat tonight?
I know, but different than my experience in the past, we are now talking about fat as a category.
True. And especially down the keto kind of a pathway.
Yeah. Cause you got Mark Hyman talking about eat your fats, eat your daily avocado, nuts, whatever. And we're coming from our upbringing as what generation are we?
We're Gen X
of don't do fat, get the fat off your meat.
Right.
And we're not going to do fat. We're going to do low fat.
Yeah.
And we did that and we all got fatter.
Yeah.
So looking at the categories to some extent, I guess I came at it from the aspect of foods categories that we do or do not partake of, even, especially in the health and wellness forum. So when we just talked about, we started off with vegetables. I don't know anybody. There's not a no vegetable. Well, you've got somebody doing carnivore diet.
I do. The 3 people over the course of the last couple of years have tried this carnivore diet. The first 2 kind of said, maybe it helped. But then this lady's like, holy cow, something just clicked. And she is also very, very rigid and good and understands her macros and records it all. And so she really had her number dialed in, and she had been weeks and weeks at, we're doing the Keto Mojo thing of ketones above 3, right? Like that takes effort to get above 3. And she was staying above there. So
we talked about meats, but we didn't talk about eating meat only.
Only the lion diet. And I think our point is it's very confusing. Like just people are out there saying, well, yeah, that's weird. I'm not going to do a carnivore diet. Why is that even a thing?
And we're not going to sit on here and say, okay,
right.
Dr. James says, eat the carnivore diet, eat keto, eat Mediterranean, eat whatever.
But we still have to think about it.
I know.
Because we're stuck.
Well, I do want we'll come back to this because after, what are you doing? 90 days of?
Yeah, I'm on week 5 now.
And we'll talk about that and what your, thoughts are. But back to vegetables. We don't have somebody saying that's not a big, like whether you eat that. We have a lot of Americans who don't, but I don't think it's by decision. It's just that it doesn't taste good. I'd rather have fried chicken or whatever. So vegetables we talked about meats, and we do have a lot of people who do not eat meat. I have family, and I've gone through my own periods of not eating meat or not. So if you don't eat, you don't eat. If you do, we talked about the ones that seem to be the most beneficial, and mainly about the lifestyle of the meat is what matters most. Then we did grains. A lot of people who, like you right now, are not participating in that category of food.
Right.
Okay. So we talked about that. So let's take fruits, because that's a viable addition category of foods that you partake of or not. And then if you do, of what foods. I don't even know if you're aware of this, because we don't talk about it, but for the most part, if I look at the past decade, I don't eat fruit.
Why?
I don't know.
I know you did a lot this summer post-COVID.
I did go through a period of doing it, but I don't know. For some reason,
Well,
I don't know.
Here's
I don't
the
have a decisive. It just kind of got out
in
of
the
the habit.
past, I would have chastised you.
I know.
And now it's less so, thinking about this, because we grew up Gen X and we grew up with the very first food pyramid. We originally, we had the 4 basic food groups. Remember that?
Yep.
In elementary school, you get this handout and here's 4
I
basic.
can't even remember what they are.
One was dairy. No,
Right.
meat and dairy, right? No.
4
Dairy, look that up. Because there was we got the handout with the squares, fruits and vegetables, meat. I think dairy had its own.
milk, meat, fruit and vegetables, bread and cereals.
There we go.
Milk
as a
Oh my
as a cornerstone thing. And of course, down in the
American
lower right-hand
Dairy
corner
Council
is
knocked it out
American-
of the park.
yeah.
They should be studied for marketing.
for marketing,
Not for
propaganda.
Yeah.
And that's right.
Totally.
And all of us and all of our moms loved us dearly. So milk and cereal with Cheerios was half of the food
Oh
group.
my gosh. I haven't looked at that. And I mean, this was like
That's
Schoolhouse Rock.
shocking. This
stuff.
is Schoolhouse Rock truth.
And the conspiracy that I haven't gone to research is that the 4 basic food groups were perpetuated by the meat and dairy councils. I mean, they came in and provided the curriculum for free to the schools.
That would be a
Again,
great book. Like, I wish somebody would go into that and say, who was employed by the American dairy, the American meat, whatever else, and who actually wrote the thing down.
I think some of that, I think that's been done. I think John Robbins. So he's the Robbins from Baskin Robbins legacy. John Robbins, he wrote the book the Diet for a New America, but he's written a bunch of them. And I think he goes into that of claiming who literally, what organizations, what people.
And how they did that and what the justification was and what the thinking was, because I would put both of our families as sort of the typical American middle class, whatever, with your mama loves you. And she's like, honey, drink your milk.
I had it,
and I loved it.
Yeah.
And
we had the big, what size is it? The big
the
huge
gallon
jug.
Yeah. The gallon
milk,
jug.
Always
at least
there.
once a week.
And I can't remember if we had 2% low fat.
Oh, it was full fat originally.
D?
And I remember when it went low fat and it tasted watery. And
yeah.
remember that?
I don't know if we did that. Man, I don't know. Anyways, and I grew up, you and I both did it, at least as younger kids.
That's right.
And I had that with cereal. And
we look at that now and say, how can that have happened?
Because we don't even have it in the house now. I mean, I literally had Lucky Charms and Captain Crunch.
Yeah. Alphabet.
And then when we got healthy, it was grape nuts and
Cheerios.
Life cereal. Life cereal.
Tricks.
As a healthy?
Yeah, Tricks.
No, tricks are for kids. That was the
that
sugar
was
bomb stuff.
The sugar bomb stuff.
No, you're
Life
thinking
was
about
sugar bomb too.
You're thinking about the sticks. There's a sticks and twigs kind of.
That's right.
I can't remember what it's called.
And
okay,
I joke forever that for the first 20 years of my life, I could not start my day without a bowl of cereal.
When was the last time you had a bowl of cereal? I literally can't remember.
I can't remember.
I did granola.
I was going to say, if you count muesli,
At a-
then in
at
my
a
20s, I did a lot of muesli.
I did a hotel recently and did some yogurt and
Well,
some. It was kind of a treat.
Your daughter right now and in Europe, it was lovely to have true Swiss muesli in Germany with true sort of watery yogurt.
She's doing coffee and croissants in France. They get
true
up,
white
coffee
bread.
croissants, go out, pick grapes, and then come back to wine and cheese and grapes. Okay, so fruit. So here we are with the fruit. And
the point was, we started with the 4. Fruit was not on the 4 things, but then when
no, it is fruit. Look, fruit and vegetables.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
They put it in there.
Well, then a pyramid came after that in the 80s, I think, was the first food pyramid. And 5 fruit, 5 a day. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. And an apple a day keeps the doctor away, back with all that stuff.
Back of that. And 5 a day was and I think it was 5 fruits and also 5 vegetables. Of course, a serving is like a cup or something weird like that. And to me right now, that's anathema. Like the amount of sugar, the amount of, not even on a keto thing, but even just people doing fruit. What's the best way to think about this? Because I had a patient this week for the first time in a long time from the deep South, and just bragging about how many fruits she was eating. And I just had to tone myself down. Like I got to start low. And she was just saying,
Can I bring up our friend, our, how do I do this tactfully? Our high profile, intellectual, very wealthy financial planning friend, not the one you're thinking of, a different one last year, who, remember, I was with them on an evening at their house or whatever. And he thought he was doing the healthy thing. And while we're there, he consumes like 3 wine glasses of fruit juice, of natural organic fruit juice. And he's thinking he's doing great. And I looked on the back of it, and the sugar content is worse than Coke, I think,
it's
or
worse,
similar.
And the iconic O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson, yeah. Well, but to that guy though, and of course he was on his way into becoming a patient of yours, which he did, and pretty significant health problems.
Yeah.
So here's a smart guy who's doing something that we would look and go, that's the dumbest thing ever. But we don't know here in our culture still. So we're on fruit. Well, can we say that right off the bat? Fruit juices, I have no use for.
Right. I would say it's a
treat.
Okay. It's not a health food. Number one,
Yeah.
It's not healthy. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason to separate the sugar from the fiber.
There you go.
Don't do that.
So look at it. But we still have, let's talk about the hotel has cereal, breads,
juice is a part of the healthy lineup.
Milk and juice.
Yeah.
100% juice. And
no sugar added.
Cereal, sugar, and fortified with 8 essential vitamins or whatever there, 12 essential vitamins are. So juice. But thank you for saying that. There's really there's just no place to
have it.
You want to treat. You're not making yourself healthy with that. And
here's where, like when we were in Hawaii, I had some freshly squeezed, mango, pineapple.
If I'm in Hawaii, I'm going to do that and have some vodka in it or something.
Right. Bloody Mary.
Yeah,
right. That's the kind of a treat. It's not even a once a month treat. I would say that's the once every time you're in Hawaii kind of a treat. Like it just oughtn't to be a part of our vernacular of fruit juice. And I'm sure a lot of parents are saying, well, I send a juice box with my kids every day. And I was like, try not to do that.
Don't do that. And don't give them Pop-Tarts for either.
And don't do Pop-Tarts either. It's the same thing.
Okay. So can we just say that juice?
Take juice off the list.
If you want it on a treat for your holiday, but it is a treat. It is not health. But now let's go to fruits. Here, I wanted to show you this. Look at this graph. These are the top statistics. These are the most consumed fruits in the United States. This is 2020. Bananas, number 1.
I knew bananas were number 1.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I just, because I had looked it up, I would have thought apples, but.
Well, it's second. So bananas, 65%, apples, 63, strawberries is next. I didn't know that.
I would not have thought that. I would have thought grapes was
I would
next.
have too. Grapes at 55.
And then oranges. Yeah.
Oranges I would have had higher, 51, watermelon. 48, blueberries, 43, lemons. That's got, people don't eat as garnish.
I was going to say it's got to be used in juices. Lemon
if
juice.
they're just looking at sales, I'm going to pull that one out. I'm going to say that's sales to restaurants to put
it's lemonade
on your glass. Well, lemonade.
That's where. Same with oranges is for orange juice.
You're right. As opposed to actual.
But strawberries? What on earth? And they're so persnickety and.
Well, then you got peaches at 41% and avocados.
Okay.
I forgot that was a fruit.
Well, yeah. And
I have that,
technically, so is coconut. And
I'd have that over in the fat, but okay. Either way. So bananas, start there. So I was a pro cyclist. You go on a 100-mile ride, you got a banana or 2 in your pocket, along with, a power bar. And then it got to gels and whatever. And it was fuel for that. Today, maybe that's why I don't like bananas. I don't like bananas. Oh my gosh. But okay. So now we're on like the grains. We did the show on grains, best grains, but what we came up with, what's the absolute best grain? Less is kind of what we came up with.
Okay.
Just less. But if you're going to, then we did talk about ones that are more
slow,
life-giving, than not. So let's do that on fruits.
Okay.
I want you to,
we can do this. I would say number 1, less.
Okay. That's all right.
Right. And number 2, more seasonal. You cannot get a banana. You're right.
You would have to go figure that out.
You got to go to Chile to get a banana in season.
But
there's no bananas in
here
America.
in America. When is?
That's my point.
So I have no idea.
So more seasonal, meaning pay some attention to that. Obviously, blueberries in February are not seasonal. I say obviously, but
it's not.
it's not obvious.
You would have to go. I don't have a source. I didn't think
Okay.
about that.
So
you'd have to go see what are the seasons, and
that's where even I don't even think this way, because it's so according to life, like the fruit is just there. And I think the grocery stores are trying to at least do, get nice tasting apples that are in season from wherever they came. So they arrive and they're fresh and crisp and all of that. So I'm going to take that back, because most people aren't going to be able to think seasonally. We're going to impose seasons.
Well, if you are in a place where you can access a farmer's market, you will.
Sure.
You should be able to. Now, some you still got to even vet those, because you're going to have the person come up there and have their tray of fruits and veggies that they got from the store. Unfortunately, I mean, even there, you got to vet, where is this actually coming from?
Right. Like we live in a place where nothing is local,
and there's seasonal. There's not much up here. But if you live in the major metropolis, but if you live in Chicago, I don't know what's growing up there that they're going to bring into a farmer's market.
Yeah, I don't know. So I mean, it's not the people living in downtown wherever, it's the people living in small town wherever, farmers markets and seasonal kind of things. I would say, gosh, yeah, take advantage of that, because your seasons and you've got that there. Well, people in urban areas don't.
Yeah. Well, up here we have Palisade Peaches coming from Palisade area, Colorado. When they're in season, they're being hawked out here on the street. That's cool. If they're in season, it's a good time for it. We all know
we bought a box.
Watermelon and the berries are, I mean, I picked raspberries, very few over at the lake, that are growing wild and whatnot. So,
but down on the timing side, the point there is for 5,000 years in the past, until about 1950, you got things in season.
Yeah.
That was the reality of the human development of wellness, and the way fruits came in was just like the animals. The bears gorge on the blueberries in the summer. They fatten up on those kind of things. Notice that they fatten up on fruit, and then they go 6 months without. And Americans are being taught by moms and governments 5 a day.
Gosh, yeah. I can go back. My grandparents, as a kid, man, I'm going there. They had a big garden, and in the summer, you're having apples off the tree, and you're having whatever fruits they grew.
And in the winter,
they're getting potatoes out of the cellar,
out of the root cellar,
and they would have canned.
I
got to think of canned peaches, man. It was a prized thing out of their.
But it was a treat, and it was prized, and it was not every day.
No,
certainly not 5 a day. Now, again, I can't remember. Maybe we should Google that. Was 5 a day 5 fruits and vegetables, or only fruits?
I mean, culturally, is there a culture around the planet where they existed primarily fruit, like the Inuits whale blubber?
Yeah.
Is there a converse? Here's where they primarily a culture that lived on fruit.
Sure. Okinawa, tropical.
Okay.
Right. Like there's always a fruit in season.
Okay.
And
different fruits, but always one. Okay.
Yeah. And
they're adapting to that diet.
Right. So we can't look and say, it's everybody on the planet can't do this. We in America are just saying, look, number one, from a grain perspective, you're already overcarbed, and fruit is high carb, high sugar, and it's sweet. And so my take on it now is to not wake up every day and say, okay, I got to get 5 a day in. I would say, see fruit as a dessert, as a treat.
A healthier option for a treat, but it is a treat.
Yeah. Like, you missed out, but Jemmy made a strawberry thing with deep goat milk cream or whatever kind of thing. It was remarkable, especially when you haven't had any carb, any sugar for weeks and weeks. Yeah. It was remarkable. Okay. That's how it ought to be. It oughtn't to be a foundational place of your daily intake of carbs and calories. That's how I would see fruit.
And that's what I'm asking. So the average aspiring, health-minded person who's going to the gym today, or they're doing their run and they're eating and they're watching grains and they're listening to this, is fruit. Should they feel good about? Yeah, every day, man, I grab an apple and have that as a snack, which you're not big on snacks in general, but I do that, or I do a banana on my bike ride, or I have
a year ago I would have said yes.
I have berries in my muesli, and
this year I would say it depends. It's debatable. It's better than a Snickers bar. Absolutely. So if you're dropping from a Snickers bar to an apple, good on you. Way to go. But
Okay.
we're talking longevity
Well, I haven't
over
had a piece
time.
of fruit in a month. I can't remember the last time I had a piece of fruit.
So then it is very debatable. So there are people out there that would say, oh my gosh, you're missing out on the phytonutrients, the micronutrients, the blueberry skins and the kinds of things that's really good for you within that. And then I think, well, you and I would say, but if we're eating the meats that are eating those things, we're getting some phytonutrient kinds of things, but you're not such a big meat eater kind of a guy, but you're doing the vegetables, right? So the vegetables are getting those phytonutrients in there. And so we're back to don't eat fruits. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, I think it's more of a dessert. So way less of them.
Yeah.
And kind of like we talked about last time with grains, that there ought to be times in the human existence on a weekly, if you think of a wave in front of you, like a sine or cosine wave, that you're dipping into ketosis, coming out of ketosis, dipping in, coming out. And in order to dip into ketosis, I'm going to plan my future life as one on, say, habitually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, we just don't do fruit. And then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, instead of my habitual dessert becoming more of a, say, an ice cream kind of thing, I'm going to try to train myself into being super in love and enjoying a creamy fruit with that level of sweetness, and not blueberries that are glazed with high fructose corn syrup, whatever kind of a dessert that might be. And then you come out of ketosis for 3-4 days. That's how I would think about fruit, as just this gift from God. This nice, look at this, my son and I, we eat this watermelon and we're like, this comes out of the ground. How does dirt produce this? That's amazing. And in the summertime, in the season, we have it, but then we go 10 months without watermelon. That's how I would think about fruit in general. Less, it's a dessert, it's special. And kind of keep it in that place, because here's the other thing. My kids, like when we have these great Honeycrisp apples for them to eat that are just like super sweet and whatever, and they're like, I'd rather have chips, right? Like, it's the level of sweetness in a sweet apple is not enough to entice them, because they're used to sweet, salty over here in a processed way. That's travesty. They should look at that apple and say, wow. Remember back when we were kids, in your Christmas stocking, did you get an orange?
Yeah, I remember fruits and stuff.
Well, that came from the fact that from the time of your grands in the Depression, when an orange
was. Well, I remember watching Poldark, and at some point,
the pineapple.
No, some point along that he finally realizes the sickness, scurvy.
Yeah.
And the wealthy girl or in the thing
bought some oranges.
Yeah, a whole bunch of oranges,
which was luxurious.
Well, but I want to go back to what you just said about the travesty of our kids not being satisfied with the sweetness of that current apple. Aren't we also to understand that the sweetness in that current apple is also X amount of times more than it should be?
Right. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, there was no Honeycrisp.
Okay, so we're back to the same thing. Corn that we have today, that's like a treat. That is not the corn that they were having in Thanksgiving back,
the Pilgrims.
Back when it was, exactly. And we talked about grains, the grains that we are having our bread with are not the grains that Jesus had at the Last Supper, or the fishes and the loaves. So here we are with fruit that has been bred to be as sweeter as possible,
to be appealing to the
especially
eye.
in America. And here's a telling thing. So I'm in, I don't remember, Florida. I think I was in Florida, and I go to this big wine mart. It's just the Home Depot of alcohol. And I said, where can I get a cider? I wanted an apple cider, but not so sweet. And the guy says, oh man, all the domestic ones, all the American ones, they're bred to be sweeter because that's what Americans like. If you want one that's not, let me take you over here into the international aisle. And I ended up getting one from Sweden. I can't remember. That was dramatically less sweet. It was dry. It was awesome, for me. But again, so with that as a preface there, here we are, and the apples Well, let's go to banana. Banana is the number one thing. Is the banana that I'm going to go get here at the grocery store, how does it relate to the one that's growing naturally in Madagascar?
Right.
Far cry.
I don't know.
I'm to understand that it's far cry, that the apple that I have, or the apple that's growing wild in Africa or wherever, is it the same as the one that's harvested here domestically to be as sweet as possible?
They're actually, and I would use apples because I don't know about bananas, but apples have a history in America. Johnny Appleseed and the whole apple cider, and there's a thread of history through the American lore of various apple families and apple kinds. But right now, how many different apples can you name off? Don't name them, but what number do you think you could think of?
Maybe 5 or 6 if I thought about it.
Right. Maybe 10 if we really stretched it. Fuji and
Granny Smith,
Washington,
and
Granny,
yeah,
galore. Or
there's like a Bradburn or something. It's just
right.
We see Honeycrisp, Fuji, and there's another one that I'm used to seeing that I'll grab organic bag of.
Delicious, Red Delicious, Golden Delicious.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you buy delicious ones?
No.
Why?
Sounds sweeter. I just assume by proxy.
No, the Red Delicious ones that you always see out at hotels.
Oh, they're not as sweet.
Right. They're pithy and they're not as sweet. It's the example of what 40 years ago was great, but they inbred themselves into a problem.
No, I'm going to grab the one you bite into and it's like sunshine and sugar bomb.
That's right. Honeycrisp.
Yeah.
But in this American lore, you go back 50, 100 years and there was not dozens, but over 100.
Huh.
And they were, Wisconsin hickory and, that named for wherever they were, but they just died out. Same with corn, same with rice, same with just about everything. You can go anywhere and see a Best Buy and an Applebee's and a whatever, but the mom and pop local shop of, hey, here's our flavor of local cuisine of jambalaya down in wherever. Let's just go to Applebee's because I don't, looks like
I'm thinking of what you talked about when we started off this series of fruit, of vegetables. What got us into this was a listener saying, wait a minute, I didn't know I'm supposed to judge my vegetables by which is better or not. Cause you had made that quip about kids.
I eat the real vegetables.
Well, but kids at a potluck, where are they going to go to? The sweetest ones. And I think you said, tomatoes and carrots and
sugar snap peas.
It's sugar snap peas. Yeah, exactly. That's what got us on this track. So same thing. If we look at fruits and if we were to put out a buffet at the next, church potluck of fruits, and we put out all these ones, what are ones going to get eaten? And if you put out a variety of apples, and nobody's going to go for the old Red Delicious free, they're going to go for the Fuji or the, what was the other one you said?
The Honeycrisp.
That was it.
Right.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I think grapes are probably sweetest.
I look at those as it's like Skittles.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh. So my daughter Eliza is over in France right now picking grapes for wine. It doesn't look at all like
they're not American grapes.
Yeah.
That's right. So we're kind of coming to the thing of, well, what are the top fruits? Like if you're going to eat fruit,
eat less. And then
you're not going to do orange juice. You're not going to do the glazed, fake fruits and fruit with sugar on it and stuff like that. But you're going to say, I want to prepare meals for my family and put snacks out for the kids. And like my mom, prided herself on, we always had fruit in the fruit bowl. Like I came home every day and had some probably grapes. There's always fruit in the fruit bowl. And I'd say, okay, as trying to set up a healthy family. In fact, just yesterday, I told my kids, look, we have these awesome apples and pears. That's the snack this week. You just don't even ask me for any other kind of snack. There they are. And I'm not eating them this week. So don't let them go bad. And if they go bad, you're in trouble. So like, okay, I'm getting forced to have this awesome pear.
Speaking of that farmer's market, so my wife goes there, because we got kids set up with a booth there, and she goes over to the big fruit and veggies vendor at the end of the day, and she'll get boxes of the stuff that was like too ripe, mainly
too squishy and too ripe. Yeah.
The last couple of weeks, it's been a little box of pears that are ready to eat right now, and we can't get through them all. So she's been washing them and cutting them up and putting them in the freezer. And then my son Canyon, that's gotten to be one of his favorites. So at night, literally, he'll pull out the bag, like a Ziploc bag of cut frozen pears, and sit there and eat the whole thing. As opposed to
As
Skittles,
opposed to Skittles or a bowl of ice cream.
bowl of-
Yes. But is it probably too many carbs for him
Yeah.
at night and all that? Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Is that super healthy? No, there's a better way to be, but everybody's going to draw their lines on
well,
their
it's
spectrum.
super healthy in compared to what?
In comparison
Compared
to
to
what?
a Hot Pocket, or not Hot Pocket. Well, that too. Pop-Tart.
Pop-Tart and Skittles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the fruit. And I do think that the culture, especially Gen X and millennials and all of that, that's like fruit is sort of like it's a saint. It can't possibly be bad for you because, well, it's fruit. Like this lady from North Carolina, she's like, well, I really get my fruits in. I'm like, yeah. If somebody's in I need to lose weight kind of a category, fruits aren't going to help you. They're just not. And I'm not saying don't eat them ever again the rest of your life, but so we're back to the spectrum of it depends.
And I wanted to ask, and I just typed this in. I'm used to hearing now about fruits and glycemic index.
Yeah.
So this is actually in regards to diabetes, and it's going through those, because my understanding, again, I haven't made this a focal point, but bananas are number one, that they're one of the highest
high sugar. Yeah.
on the glycemic index.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with diabetes, here you've got, what is this health line? And it starts off, can I just read them real quick?
Yeah.
Cherries has, I think,
low
the lowest-
glycemic.
Yeah, low. Cherries, grapefruit. So these are so I'm going to have you say, yeah, you're grimacing. Dried apricots. I don't know.
I thought all dried fruit was more concentrated sugar, so I don't know about that one.
Apricots, but they are not that sweet.
They're not
Dried
that sweet,
apricot,
and
yeah.
maybe that's why.
It's weird that they
Oh,
put dried,
pears,
pears,
huh?
glycemic low, apples,
Apples.
oranges, plums, strawberries, peaches, grapes.
So that's getting
So look, that's
higher and
glycemic-
higher.
higher and higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go up to the top, so
So cherries. Where's
cherries.
blueberries? I would have put blueberries high up too.
grapefruit, not generally not sweet.
Not
tart.
sweet,
We think
uh-huh.
of that as tart.
And kind of at the bottom is going to be, what was it again at the very bottom? Was peaches,
Peaches and
grapes, and then watermelon, and all of those kind of things are going to get. So at the top of the list, if people are going to say, okay, but what fruits should I prioritize and keep high? And I would say berries. Absolutely. But not just only blueberries, but cherries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and rotate them. So, and those are also very seasonal and expensive, right? And so, and they also probably ought to be organic. They're finicky, so they get sprayed.
Wow.
Like
Yeah, which
cherries.
is maybe hard to find in some areas, but yeah, we used to have, when I lived in Tennessee, we had a wild blueberry, we had bushes
Yeah.
back on the property. We'd go do them, pick them, and make, what's the thing you bake? You make
Blueberry pie.
got cobbler.
Cobbler?
That's what I was trying to think. So we'd make it even more sugary. But man, what those look like compared to the ones that we see at the store that are giant,
Yeah.
I mean,
Somehow
it's
cultivated in a way that makes them appealing.
bigger,
and-
sweeter.
Yes. I spent one summer in Vermont, and they had a big blueberry kind of season, and we were just there and at graduate school, and they came out with it had to be the equivalent of 5-gallon bucket full of blueberries, and just
Wow.
knock stuff out. We've got all these. I
That
was
is
like,
awesome.
okay.
Yeah, let's talk about a treat, man.
It was a treat, but it's seasonal and all of those kind of things. So here we are, and in our family, like weekends, the kids like yogurt, and we're like, well, okay, but if you're gonna have yogurt, that's what the berries are for. So we'll buy the frozen organic, 3-pound bag at Costco of blueberries and work our way through that. In the season, we'll buy the 1-pound bag of big blueberries, and it's just a treat. And then we'll go to lengths to keep that going because we can through the winter, right? Because it's part of the rotation, but not every day. With my kids, I'm trying to get them off of chips or whatever.
It's a comparison.
yeah.
In comparison.
For me, it's become, I'm not going to do that every day.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into seasons of less carb and more ketosis. Okay. Do I miss out on the phytonutrients and stuff like that? Yeah, but I'm getting protein and veggies and fat that are really have great lifestyles if they're animals. And the veggies also have that phytonutrient signal that I think is probably more dense and more valuable.
And you're taking supplements.
And personally, I'm doing the
You're
supplements
taking a
too. Yeah.
multivitamin and Well, I guess that's it. That's what those.
That's going to hit the
what
phytonutrient. And we take a multivitamin that's actually called Phyto Multi because it's focusing on that phyto side. And so at the end of the day, thinking about, okay, what fruits are going to go high up there? I would put blueberries, cherries, raspberries, blackberries. I think those are the main obtainable ones.
Yeah.
And on the cheapest side, organic frozen is where it's obtainable. And then on the fresh side, I would say in season. And so probably, you know, once or a couple times a week. And then then down from there, personally, I don't like bananas. The other thing about bananas is they all come from third worldly kind of a place. They have to get picked early, then they get chemically ripened on the boat, right? Like all of the banana culture is a hard one, is a tough one. And so we're not big on bananas in our family. We got a couple kids that like them. And so, but most of the time my wife will buy them just for variety and they sort of get brown and don't go anywhere. So I would put then next are the apples. Because
grapefruit, which, you know,
okay,
again, we don't do a ton of fruit, and grapefruit's
super seasonal,
not the one the kids are going to go for.
And they're not going to go for it. But I would, if when they get 15, 16 and they're like, hey, look at this one. It's interesting. It's flavorful. It's so exciting. Okay. Kind of like that, but not every day. It doesn't have to be breakfast at my grandma every single day.
Yeah.
It was grapefruit. She was trying to lose weight. Remember the grapefruit diet?
Yeah. I was going to say there's a weight loss fad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's why: low glycemic index. It satisfies some part of that sweet tooth, but so the citrusy kind of things. So grapefruit, oranges, and all of those things are on that list of rotation of putting them in there. I think apples are going to be there. Grapes used to always be my number one, but they are very high on the sugar side of things. Watermelon, we just kill it in the summer with one a week, basically, when they're in season for, 2 months out of the year, and then we don't do it anymore.
Melons, we haven't mentioned that.
Same. So cantaloupe, honeydew, and
cantaloupe.
Summertime, I talked to my wife and I'm like, we can't eat the fruit fast enough. It gets bad. We're gonna have to do a midweek fruit, grab a melon or something, because we can't do it fast enough when she buys once a week and a whole bunch of fruit in the summertime. And which is why I delayed my ketogenic trial to get into September and just post whatever. And I like that idea of really enjoying the fruit in the summer. And then in the winter, not having a thought of, I got to get a melon, that they're not that great in the wintertime. Mostly the grapes, the apples, the bananas, the common ones. And in the wintertime, I'd say, yeah, put those in. And if your kids are getting off Skittles and having grapes, that's probably better. Oh, those little cuties, like that's a wintertime seasonal things. But I had one 14-year-old and the mom says, yeah, he eats a bag a day. And I'm like, well, yeah. She's like, well, it was Skittles. Okay. And I had to say, well, in comparison, okay.
Sure, right. But still, man, that's sugar. But yeah, if we just look at sugar content alone, which you're gonna have to go and look at what your average cutie has. I don't know if it's on the bag, if it says.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. We would have to look at one of these sites that have, calculated that out, and how much sugar is that. It's a lot, and we're overcarbed anyway. So just see the fruit as a carb. Don't see it as a part of the main food groups.
And there, let's go to that, on the carbs, to look at, if you take a food journal, and this is, I don't like doing this either, but it's so telling. I know you have patients do that. If you take a food journal and see at the end of the day or at the end of the week, what is the average amount of, if we look at sugars, at carbs that you were taking in, carbs, grains, alcohol,
sodas,
fruits,
coffee,
and then actual sweets. And we'll hit sweets in one of these episodes, just in general, looking at sugar and stuff, but to see how much sugar. That's what I think about during the day. How much vegetables did I eat today? How much sugar did I take in today? Was this a high sugar? Because I'll have some, right? I'm being a little more liberal these days. And I'll look and go, gosh, how many dark chocolate covered almonds did I have? Did I have some chocolate chips? And at the end of the day, how much did I take in, and all the different forms?
And be aware of your fruit.
Be aware of your fruit.